everyone, Dan Saavedra from Merger Data here, and this is day 17 of the 90-day YouTube sprint on signal analytics. And as promised in the last video, we're going to be talking about a sales topic today, which is finding and fixing pipeline leakage. So if you've heard the term before, you know it's a problem, it's a waste of money, and you want to plug that leak as fast as you can. So we're going to get into it. Without further ado, I am Dan Saavedra. I'm the founder of this company, Merger Data. We're a signal analytics firm. We take data points and we show them to you and we automate them into your CRM, indicating that someone is likely to buy. We'll find your top signals that someone's likely to turn from a prospect into a customer. We'll find your top negative signals, meaning that people are not likely to turn into a customer and you shouldn't waste your time with them. And I've been working in data for 12 years. Who this presentation is for: sales leadership and their team, and RevOps leadership and their team. If you're a sales leader, you want to have good numbers, you want to hit your targets, you want your team to be efficient and achieve what they have set out to achieve. It's a very difficult task. This is one way to approach that problem. If you're a RevOps leader or the team, you're in the data all the time, you can help out with sales and marketing, or with your sales and marketing teams. You can help them achieve their goals by providing the data and the insights of the entire pipeline in context with what they're doing, help give them suggestions and build solutions with them. And so why you would care about this is because of these symptoms that you might be experiencing. So number one, overall conversion rate. So total leads to closed customer is lower than expected. Number two, you're missing revenue targets. It's a really broad symptom, can be a lot of problems. This is one way to approach that. Three, marketing and sales fights. If you guys are constantly saying that leads are bad, and then marketing is saying that sales is bad, and then both of you maybe agree on the point that product or service is bad, whatever it may be, this is a good indication that you might have some pipeline leakage. And so we want to go further and solve it. And so this is a lot of words, some more words than I usually do on a slide here, but these are the steps to solve this problem with signal analytics. So the topic of the series is signal analytics. So of course we're going to talk about that approach. And we're just going to go step by step here. So one, you need to get the conversion rate data for each and every stage to stage movement in the pipeline. This means that you have to know your numbers. Data has to be set up correctly inside of your CRM. You have to know for each stage that a deal converts to, and ideally each stage in a life cycle stage of a contact, if you're using HubSpot. You have to know the conversion rate for each and every one. This is going to allow you to identify problems. Obviously, if you have a low overall conversion rate, you're going to see different numbers stage to stage. And it's going to kind of give you the idea of where the problem lies. Is it in the front of the process, the customer journey? Is it at the end when sales is interacting with them? Is it at the beginning when marketing is interacting with them? Is it somewhere in between in a handoff? This is where we find that information. So that is part of number two, identify where there are low conversion rates stage to stage. So you'll have your own guidelines for this. You can decide what is acceptable. Ideally, you want to aim for something that's not under 5%. Obviously, that's pretty bad. What we see typically is somewhere between 20 to 30% stage to stage is a really good performance for conversion for each stage. And so that's what we tell people that they should aim for. If you have lower goals because of your specific business, so be it. You can decide on that. Three, break it down by various dimensions: channel, company size, job title, interests, behaviors, all the signal dimensions that we talked about in video 15 with the signal constructor. You can slice and dice the data different ways to see if there are different conversion rates for different segments of people. And so you might actually have a high conversion rate with a specific subsegment of dimensions compared to your overall conversion rate for the stage with all of the segments combined. So you might have, from, if we're using a traditional definition of life cycle stages, lead to MQL, you might have as an overall lead to MQL conversion rate 4% or something like that. Hopefully it's not that low, but let's say you have 4%. If you break down the data, you might have one group that converts 20% of the time. And then you have another group or a bunch of groups that convert at 1%. So it averages out to 4. And so you can understand exactly what's going on. Maybe your targeting is off when you're bringing leads in. Maybe you just have a bunch of low quality leads that are being added from external systems when they shouldn't be. There's a ton of different things that could be going on, but this is why we use data to get down to that specific issue. And so then we're going to be looking at different actions once we find the true low performing conversions in that stage. So if we break it out by dimensions, we're like, yes, this group should be performing, but they are not. Why is it? You're going to look at your team's response time, depending on what stage it's in. So if people are signing up for a newsletter or a free resource, and for whatever reason, that email is not being sent to them and they're not getting it for 3 days, maybe that's a problem. If it's someone reaching out to get a demo and sales isn't calling or emailing them to schedule that demo for 15 minutes, for 4 hours, for 9 days, whatever it is, that could be a problem. And so we often see response times as a very significant indicator of how successful you are converting someone from one stage to another. And so this is usually the number one option that we say to look at when it comes to analyzing the actions. 2, original source of contact or account. This is a dimension that you can look at. Typically, we see certain sources, original sources of contacts or accounts as a good indicator of someone who's going to be low or high performing. Certain channels, certain ways that people come in are just higher overall for a lot of businesses. And so for us, a lot of time, obviously referrals are a big one. Inbound leads are a big one that perform really well. And then could be, search ads, like we talked about in the last video, that are performing really poorly. So we look at that. And then last but not least, owners of the actions. And so who's responsible for getting that person to convert to the next stage? Is it going to be the salesperson because it's someone who just had a demo and now you're trying to get them to convert? Is it at the top of the funnel where someone is a lead and now it's marketing's job to target and provide the right messaging at the right time to get them to book a demo, convert to an SQL, if that's the setup you're using? 5, solve one stage at a time. And we're going to start with furthest downstream first. So we're going to look at the bottom of the funnel first, the bottom of the customer journey or the end of the customer journey. And we'll talk about it on the next slide here as to why. 6, for each stage conversion, identify the top 3 positive and negative signal data points. We go over this every video. If you can identify what these signal data points are from one stage to convert to the next one, you'll be able to see which ones you should be pursuing and paying attention to and trying to make people do more of, and which ones you should use to just downsell and politely reject that prospect to save brand, obviously. 7, like I said, do more to make people experience the top 3 signals. 8, downsell or kindly reject unqualified prospects. Let them down easy, unless they're persistent and really, really wasting time. Obviously, word travels, people talk, so it's never a good idea, in my opinion, unless someone really deserves it, to be rude and ignore them completely. 9, if it's still not fixed, you have a bigger problem. This can be a discussion that can be bumped up to the top, honestly. But if you've gone through all these actions, it's time to escalate this. There could be an offer or product problem that needs to be fixed. That's a core business issue. It could be messaging overall that's been agreed upon. That could be a core issue. And there are other core issues that pop up that are not related and cannot be solved with just data. It can be exposed with data, but it cannot be solved. So, like I said, we're going to talk about this, why you solve one downstream stage at a time. Once they're in the funnel, the math is the same. You look at it, unoptimized funnel, the original starting point. We have 1,000 to 2,000 to 400 to 80. It's 20% conversion along each stage. If we optimize the front of the funnel, we're going to get 3,000 MQLs, 600 SQLs, and 120 customers. So we increase from the unoptimized funnel. But if we do the back of the funnel first, we end up with 2,000 MQLs, 400 SQLs, and then 120 customers. And that's a 30% conversion on this last one. So why would we pick option 3 here instead of option 2? It's not math related, it's the other math related. If we're just looking at pure conversion percentages, it's not going to make a difference which one we optimize first. But that's completely ignoring the cost of doing business, the cost of getting people to convert to each and every stage. And so oftentimes, because our merger data specifically interact with B2B clients, sales is typically a higher headcount expense. It takes a lot more manpower to get people to close on bigger deals. There's a lot more efforts involved. When it's lower ticket or it's to consumers, marketing typically has a lot more spend than the salespeople. You can oftentimes get people to, I mean, I'm not going to speak to this because I don't really know, but I'm assuming you can get people to buy stuff online just by clicking on ads, reading a page, and purchasing. But when you're selling contracts that are 6, 7, 8 figures, it's not going to happen that way. So why we start at the bottom of the funnel is because if you have the most resources going into talking to people, the sales portion of it, then you're going to want to really nail down that entire part of the process before giving them more at bats, because it's only going to dilute your team's ability to focus on each prospect, and you're going to end up still having low conversions, and you're probably going to lower your conversion rate on the back end because they're not going to be as focused, and you're going to be having more leads come through the top if you're optimizing for the top of the funnel. And so you're burning brand and burning future opportunities if there's a really poor experience when people are meeting with your actual sales team. And so if you can optimize at the end of the funnel, then you're going to be able to really nail the problems that your prospects are facing. You're going to be able to nail that entire process of getting them to buy once they're getting on a call with you. And so then when you work yourself back up to the top of the funnel, you're going to be able to take advantage of all those additional leads. And then it makes much more sense to scale your sales team if you need to with headcount, rather than the other way around where you're just feeding them a bunch of stuff and then they're becoming overwhelmed, they're converting less people, your prospects are getting less attention, and then it's all just falling apart. And so we like doing the back end first because of this reason alone. You're putting more resources into that team, and you want to make sure that it's a good experience for your prospects and that when they're getting on a call, they're very highly likely to convert. And so then you can start feeding them more and more in the future, and you can be confident that your targeting and your messaging is right and that your team is trained correctly to handle those leads. So that's our philosophy. Obviously, you saw the math is no different in terms of just the conversion rates from stage to stage. But when you're considering headcount and the spend and where that's being allocated, we typically say go towards the bottom of the funnel, the end of the journey. That's it for this video. Take one action, like, share in a chat, do something. Appreciate it. Next videos, we're not going to do this again. We're going to go on to another topic. If you have not yet, go to the link in the description to get the signal constructor so you can know exactly how to map a metric and the dimensions to an action. So the number and how you slice and dice that number and what that means for your team, how they're going to act when they see a certain type of criteria. We have an entire workbook built out that you can get by just signing up in the description. I'm Dan Saavedra from Merger Data. Thanks for watching.